What's going on, guys? Another very solid day today. SPY seeing even more upside, and AMC cracking back into that $5 range. Bullish as fuck. Very, very bullish. I'm gonna start getting hyped soon. It's almost time for margaritas and some fucking holes in the wall behind me. It looks very good. Cracking back into that $5 range. Very, very big deal. SPY is just fucking tearing to the upside, unstoppable. With that being said, let's jump into the vid. Starting with the macro on SPY. After further review, the call on the field stands. The market is bullish as fuck. This chart is insanely bullish. I don't know why people think this is bearish still. I really don't. Descending broadening wedge for a year. Broke it to the upside. Retested twice. Confirmed. Reclaimed the ascending triangle. Very strong resistance here in this ascending triangle at 418. Broke out of that as well. Breakout, retest, and more upside here. And a new local high today. 437 and change. Looks amazing. Looks very, very good. Jumping into the symmetry on SPY once again. The blue box would be your middle. Mentioned this multiple times, that this break above here, above the ascending triangle, was to retest on the macro. Now from this blue box, we go to the red, where you have this horizontal line at 380. Both red boxes come below that horizontal line at 380. This one does as well. A little bit lower to retest the macro here as well, and then you bounce up to 418 on the dot. Same over here. From that 418, you reject and come down to 380 on the dot in both green boxes now. Perfect bounce there. And then you find an uptrend that takes you to that 430 resistance, which you have 3 touches on before you break out of that to the upside. Same exact thing over here from the 380 bottom. Same in both. Came up to the 430 range. 3 touches on it. 1, 2, 3. Breakout, retest, and then found some more upside. High of day today actually came up to this next level of resistance here, 438. Pretty much on the dot. Found a rejection there. And the exact same thing happened over here, actually, where you reject off of this 430, this 438, come down before you break through it and start heading up to 450. Actually, after hours, we pretty much are trading right where this retraces from the rejection. So this is a perfectly symmetrical move. I mentioned that multiple times. Very, very bullish. Golden cross on the daily, extremely bullish on SPY. You can look up the historical data on the golden cross on the S&P 500. Is always followed by some pretty significant upside. Day 52 in a row, closing over the 200 EMA. It's either 52 or 53. Can't even keep track anymore because that's how bullish this chart is. Ridiculously bullish chart. Perfect symmetry. Perfect touch points in the symmetry. Golden cross. Flying to the upside. It looks really, really good. I believe CPI data came out today, which I had no idea about because I don't pay attention to the news at all. But if somebody told me that, I probably would have told you that the CPI data would be good because SPY is about to go to 450. And not because of the news, but because the algo is taking us to 450 no matter what. It's predetermined. We're going to 450. We're going to new highs on SPY. The news does not matter. I could have told you the CPI data was going to be good. All of a sudden, inflation is cured as SPY is breaking out of this 430 range to the upside. Funny how that works. The best inflation numbers we've seen in a very long time. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. But I'll just leave it at that. So jumping into the market sync once again, where SPY has this descending broadening wedge that transitioned into an ascending triangle, where you find your macro breakout of the triangle and the retest before finding some upside here. At the exact same time, AMC has broken its macro pattern to the upside and actually came down for a retest that we spent a full month in, confirmed it, and now we have this uptrend. Once again, just showing the sync up in the market here. Everything looks very good. SPY is extremely bullish. AMC is following the macro perfectly. Confirmed the retest of the macro. GameStop actually recovered all of the losses from the knife that it saw after hours. Looks very good. All around the market is synced up and is about to squeeze. Extremely bullish. I forgot to mention for SPY as well that I would not be surprised to see 450 this week at all. That would not shock me in the slightest. I stand by that. SPY is going to be heading to 450 relatively fast. I would not be shocked to see that this week. If it doesn't happen this week, I can almost guarantee it would be next week. SPY sees 450, and that's pretty much that. That's it for SPY. So now jumping into AMC, my macro perspective on AMC here. COVID right here, January 2020. Immediately following that, you drop down into the 3 fractal sequence, the green, red, and blue, which takes you to your squeeze in January. You come down and you find an uptrend here, which takes you to the June squeeze. From there, you trade in this flag. You break down from the flag in November, and then you reset back into the green, red, and blue that we tracked, that played out back here. We're tracking that perfectly, the only difference being that we're descending. Exact same movement, only difference is we're descending. And we are at the end where you break out and retest. So with that being said, jumping into the macro zoomed in now. So again, up top is just my macro perspective, exactly what I just showed you, except without the bars. And then down below would be zoomed in on the blue box here of January 2021, which took you to your squeeze here. And then on the right is the blue box of our current cycle that will be taking us to our squeeze. I mentioned this a million times already. The trend line from the start of the blue box straight down over your tri-peak where you get rejected is where you find your breakout and retest. Before that, you have a double bottom, the second bottom being slightly lower. So you have your first bottom, your tri-peak rejecting that resistance. Second bottom, slightly lower, and then you find the uptrend that breaks you out, you get the retest, and then you squeeze. Over here, exact same thing. First bottom, tri-peak rejecting that resistance. Second bottom, slightly lower low there. Find that uptrend that breaks you out. Come back down for the retest confirmed, and now we're in this uptrend here. This will be taking us to our squeeze. It looks very, very good. Jumping into this one more time, I want to keep touching on this. Maybe not in every video, but I want to touch on this again. So on the left is the January 2021 cycle that took you to your squeeze in January 2021. And on the right is the current cycle that we are tracking this perfectly. This pattern was very flat. I mentioned this multiple times. This pattern is very flat on the bottom. The bottom was the bottom the entire time. Very flat pattern. And because of that, the breakout and the retest was flat as well. I mentioned that we're tracking this perfectly. Only difference being that we're descending. So here it is, descending price action, the exact same thing you saw here. So our retest would be descending. I touched on that multiple times. So just getting into the time range of each box one more time. The green box back here in 2021, 110 days. The green box here being 118 days, pretty much one-to-one there as far as time goes. The red box 2021, 83 days versus 131. Slightly slower than one-to-one, but still pretty close to one-to-one there. And then the green box, the blue box here in the pre-2021 squeeze, 148 days versus our current cycle of 309 days. Roughly twice as slow. We are tracking this now. The green and red were pretty much one-to-one. I mentioned the ape dividend that dropped in August apparently had some effect on the algo where it slowed us down. We're now tracking twice as slow, whereas the green and the red were pretty much one-to-one. We are still tracking. It didn't change anything about the macro. We're still tracking perfectly. We're just tracking slower now. So that's that. Once again, jumping into the trend angles. This is exactly what I just showed you. The blue box of January 2021 on the left and the blue box of the current cycle on the right. And the trend line from the top of each box where you find your rejection off the tri-peak and your breakout and your retest. Same exact thing over here. Reject the tri-peak, breakout and retest, minus 42 degrees. Same exact angle up top. And the bottom, the lower low to the first low, 176 degrees in 2021 versus 178 degrees in our current cycle. Pretty much the same thing, 2 degrees off there. So 2 degrees off on the bottom trend, and the top trend is identical. The movement is identical. And once again, touching on the breakout, in 2021, you broke out here and formed a very symmetrical W here that was flat. The bottom was pretty much flat here, but it was a symmetrical move, and it was a W. And I mentioned multiple times that number one, we're tracking slower, so this is going to take more time. And number two, we're descending. So we would play the same thing out, a symmetrical W, except descending. And that's exactly what's happening now. So there's your breakout, your first leg of the W, your second leg of the W. We're now coming up on the second leg of the W. Turning your head to the right, you could see this is a very symmetrical move. It's just descending. So it is tracking perfectly, only difference being it's slightly slower and it's descending. Regardless, we are at the end. We have confirmed the retest of the macro breakout. This will be taking us to our squeeze. There is absolutely no more downside on AMC at all. None. No more downside. We are forming higher highs and higher lows on a daily basis from here on out until we peak on our squeeze day. Doesn't mean we're not going to see some red days. I'm expecting red tomorrow. But as far as forming higher highs and higher lows, that is what I'm saying. We will be forming higher highs and higher lows until we peak on our squeeze day. So that's that. Now jumping into the breakout and the retest once more on the 4 hour, where you reject the white line here being your macro resistance on AMC, and the red line being the micro resistance that kept us pinched down to the retest. So prior to breaking out, you reject, and then you break out. Exact same thing happened in 2021. Same pattern here in 2021. From there, you break out and find the rest of the upside, and then from there, you get into the W. Now again, the W is descending, and it's taking longer to play out. We were in this retest for a month, and this upper micro resistance here was very strong and kept us pinched down into a descending wedge, testing the macro for a month. So here's your first leg of the W, here is your second leg of the W, multiple breaks below on both legs of the W. The exact same thing happened in January 2021. You had multiple breaks below, always reclaimed it, same here. And from our confirmation of the second leg of the W, we found this uptrend that broke you out of the micro resistance as well. And here's the uptrend. Very, very solid uptrend. It's taking forever to play out. We're approximately a week and a half into the uptrend now. I mentioned that this uptrend was going to take a long time to play out. It will be taking us to roughly $6.50, $7. And I mentioned it would take roughly 2 to 3 weeks to play out. We're a week and a half in, and it's playing out exactly how I said. It's taking a very long time, but it is an uptrend. We're forming higher highs and higher lows. The move is symmetrical, and it's descending. Exactly what I said, and it looks very good. And that's pretty much it for that. Now into the daily retest once again. I really like the way this looks. Here would be your first bottom, your tri-peak rejecting that resistance, your second bottom with a lower low, which happened after hours, the uptrend that breaks you out of the macro, and then the retest here, which looks absolutely crazy. You could really see this W forming now very, very clearly, slanting your head on the right. You could see this is a very symmetrical move here. It's a W. It's descending exactly what I said. We broke into the $5 range today, closed $5. This looks very, very good. Retest confirmed. Here's your uptrend. Very slow uptrend, but it is an uptrend nonetheless. We're forming higher highs and higher lows on a daily basis. This retest looks fucking insane. Very, very low volume here. Very, very low volume the whole time. From the breakout, the whole retest, and mostly through this uptrend, we actually saw a pretty solid day today, volume-wise, on this move to 5+. So that looks very bullish as well. I have no complaints at all. This looks amazing. And once again, jumping into the tracking on the micro, it's tracking fucking perfectly. So starting with the yellow box here is where you find your top. I mentioned this multiple times. I'm just going to do it again. From there, you break down into this W where you have a lower low on the right, and then from there you bounce up to the red horizontal line. I have horizontal lines drawn across on both sides. They pretty much match up too. It's pretty crazy. Looks exactly the same. So you bounce up to that red horizontal line, reject there. Same thing over here. Bounce up. Here's your W, lower low on the right. Bounce up to the red horizontal line, reject there. And then you break down. Fuck, I forgot to put a horizontal line across here. Whatever. So you break down from that, and then you have some chop here at the top of the green box where you reject it, and then come all the way to your bottom where you confirm the retest. Over here, same thing. You break down from the orange box, have some chop here, rejecting the top of the green box before you come all the way down to the bottom, which is your confirmation of the retest. From there, you find a bounce, and then you come up into this red box here, which I mentioned is very flat, very barcodey. Very barcodey price action there. Exact same thing here from the bottom, the confirmation. You bounce up into this red box, very flat, barcodey price action. From there, you break out of that red box, come up to the top of the green box once again, and reject once again. And from there, you form a double bottom at the bottom of the red box. Over here, exact same thing. I mentioned multiple times, the wicks are never going to be perfect. It's the same exact movement. The wicks are never going to be perfect here. Comparing a 1 minute chart to a 4 hour chart here. So the wicks are never going to be perfect. So anyways, breaking out of this red box here, same way we did back here, you reject the top of the green box right here. From there, you come down and form this double bottom marked by the purple circles at the bottom of the red rectangle. Exact same thing over here. From that second bottom there, you bounce back up to the green, reject it once again, bounce back up to the green, reject it once again, before breaking out of the green to the next range. Broke out of the green box to the next range. I mentioned this would be happening. I mentioned we'd be seeing $5 this week. Exactly what happened. I also mentioned you could possibly expect to find a top at 508. Based off touch points, that's what I have, 508. And what did I just say? The wicks are never going to be perfect. We wicked slightly higher than 508. High of the day was 515. Same shit. The wicks are never going to be perfect, but it is tracking perfectly. And that was your high of day. And then from there, we found some downside, which is exactly what happened. Now, tomorrow, I am expecting a pretty boring and more than likely red day. So what we have next, having rejected this red resistance line now, same as over here, is we are going to come back down, as we did over here, and form support on the top of the green box here, as you did here. Very sideways price action, just bouncing on top of this green box here as support. Once that confirms is when you're going to get the bounce up to the next range, which in my opinion would be 535. Horizontal line, which I'm assuming is correct, which that would be the top of our next range. So tomorrow, I'm expecting to come back down to the bottom of the top of this green box and trade here, more than likely all day, bouncing on top of this green box as support. The top of this green box is roughly 485. I would not be shocked at all to come slightly lower than that. The wicks are never going to be perfect, especially tracking a 1 minute chart versus a 4 hour chart. I would not be surprised if we wick below 485. Maybe 478, maybe 475. I would not be shocked to have a couple wicks back into this range here from 470 to 480. Would not be shocked to see that at all. We should recover from that, and we should close above the green box. We should be testing this green box, the top of it, as support. I'm assuming all day tomorrow would be this price action just chopping up and down, testing the previous range as support. And then Thursday, potentially, if this all plays out tomorrow, we will have another move to the upside, and that would take us to 535. Then your Friday, let me not get too ahead of myself, but I'm just throwing out an estimate of what I see the rest of the week being. I mentioned that this is more than likely going to be our price action for the entire week. The breakout from the green box, the breakout to the next range above that, and then close the week somewhere here, potentially get into the boom candles. I don't think we will this week. More than likely that'll be next week. But I mentioned that more than likely this would be our price action for the week. Standing by that. So tomorrow I'm expecting to come down and have chop here and more than likely carve a bottom here, carving support on the top of the green box here. And then Thursday you would get the move up to 535. And from there, you would come down and test on the pink box as support and probably close the week somewhere 515 to 520, as I mentioned in one of my previous videos as well. That's pretty much it. The micro is tracking perfectly, legitimately perfectly. That was exactly what I wanted to see today. I'm not even going to lie. When we got to 508, I was like, all right, reject here, please. Please, like, obviously I want to see upside, but I'd prefer to see the micro tracking perfectly. High of the day was 515. That's where you found the high, and then we rejected there. I'm not pressed about that. It's a few cents higher. I mentioned the wicks are never going to be perfect. It's tracking perfectly nonetheless. So the macro is perfect. perfect. We got the first bottom, the tri-peak, the second bottom, lower low, the uptrend and breakout. Same thing. We got that already. We confirmed the retest. I mentioned multiple times the W would be descending. This W was flat. It was symmetrical and flat. I mentioned multiple times this would be descending, and it would take longer to play out. So far, so good. We confirmed the retest to have this uptrend. So far, so good. I said we would hit $5 this week. So far, so good. And the micro, tracking on the micro, looks absolutely perfect. Perfect movement here. Love what I'm seeing. I love the way SPY looks. This move is perfectly symmetrical. This chart's extremely bullish. Breaking this 430 range here is a big deal. We are going to be heading to 450 relatively fast. I don't know what I'm not sure if JPOW is speaking tomorrow. I saw some talk about that in the Discord. I could be wrong. I don't pay attention to the news. Fuck the news. I don't care. But if he is speaking tomorrow, usually when he's speaking is where you see some volatility. I would not be surprised if JPOW sends this shit to 450 tomorrow. I would not be surprised to see that shit at all. So with that being said, I'll leave the video there. I'm expecting more upside for SPY, and I'm expecting AMC to more than likely come back down to 475 to 480, testing on the top of this green box here as support. Probably spending the entire day tomorrow doing that before bouncing up to the next range, potentially on Thursday. So far, so good. Bullish as fuck. Everything looks perfect, and I will catch you guys in the next one.